So something we all have in common here is that we probably all own a cell phone, just like the last speech. But I'm gonna be speaking about the dangers and the problems that they cause since we're always on our cell phones, spending so much time on them, what that can do to us, to our kids, to us as adults or teenagers. So, and the things we could do to limit our time and pay more attention to the time we spend on our cell phones. So first, cell phones are super easy to use. They're convenient. You know, you could be laying down on bed, you just take it out, and there go 2 hours scrolling down social media, YouTube, anything. And so what that does to us is it can cause eye strain, it can cause blurred vision, burning to the eyes, and then especially when we're laying down in bed right before we go to sleep, this can affect the quality of our sleep, the amount of sleep we get, cause neck pains, headaches, and that could affect how we feel the next day in the morning. And then another thing that we probably don't think about is what it does to our bank account. So since they're always developing the cell phones, they're making them easy to use, they're advancing the technology. We always find the need to have the newest cell phone. We spend the money, $1,000. That's a lot of money for a cell phone that you probably don't even need all that technology when you have a perfectly fine one already. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about because they just want that new cell phone because they make it so much better, as they say it. They say that, oh, it's so much better, when a lot of the technology we already have in the cell phone that we own already. And so another danger is the germs on our cell phones. Since we're always on our cell phones, anything we touch with our hands, and then we go ahead and touch our cell phones, and then we might go wash our hands, and then we take our cell phone out again. Those germs that we just washed off on our hands they come right back on our hands because we don't wash our cell phone. We just touch everything. We go on our social media, we put our cell phone away, we might wash our hands, and we take our cell phone out again, and all the germs are back. So what this does is it increases our chance of illnesses. So because of the bacteria, the germs on our cell phones, they're constantly on our hands. And okay. So another problem is using our cell phone while driving. So even though this is already illegal, there's still many cases that teenagers, adults, anyone who can drive are on their cell phone texting, calling while driving. And according to driverknowledge.com, you're 23 times more likely to crash while texting. And so also in our kids, it's super easy for them to have a loss in time since our cell phones are so easy to use. They can just go hours on games, videos. They don't really have a knowledge for what's good and what's bad for them, so they can just sit there for hours. And this also causes eye strain to them. It affects their vision. And for them, since they need more sleep, this could affect the quality of their sleep and the amount of sleep they get, affecting their schoolwork, their grades, along with many other things. And then what a lot of people are finding out that this is developing into anxiety for kids, since they find themselves on their cell phone so much. They don't really find the need to interact with anyone else. They can do everything with a couple taps on their cell phone. They don't even need to go to the store anymore. They can just buy anything. They can do anything, like he said, with the internet, on our cell phones. The development of them, everything's just so easy to get to. You don't really need to go out and do anything. And this is also affecting the development into adulthood for them. A lot of kids don't see the need in interacting and learning what they need for the future. And so some things that we can do is set a timer for the kids, like a schedule, so they don't go on hours with their cell phone. And some things for us is, just something small is just keep your cell phone out of sight, just so you don't get urge to use your cell phone, don't put your cell phone next to your bed. So when you're going to sleep, you don't find the need to go on your cell phone right before sleep, because this could affect your sleep. And then lastly, don't eat with your cell phone, because this affects how much you eat. You don't really think about what you're eating when you're on your cell phone, because you're on your cell phone, so you just keep eating. So this can affect your weight, the unhealthy stuff you're eating. So hopefully I brought to light the effects and dangers of blindlessly using your cell phone without thinking of the effects that it has on you.
Kylie, a few words.
I thought that this speech was really interesting and impactful because it's something we can all really relate to because we're all on our phones so much. It also makes you think a lot about, like, in the future, if you want to have children, like, how you shouldn't have them on a phone as much, because it shows how negative it can be for not only yourself but your children. I really like that you said brought to light at the end. It's like that's something new that we usually don't hear in speeches. What you're standing, you stand with purpose, but also, like, sometimes you can have happy feet, so that's just something you kind of need to, like, look out for. Other than that, I thought it was a really good speech, and you didn't look at your notes that much, which was, like, made it better. But overall, you did a good job.
Okay. Well, I think, the fact that you're following the previous speech and you make reference to that, that's perfectly reasonable in the introduction. You kind of suggest that there are problems for adults and kids and teenagers. I thought that was going to be the structure of the speech, but it turns out that that's not really the structure of the speech. It rather is kind of random in what the particular problems are. So you list some problems. The first one has to do with eye strain and sleep, and I don't hear any source citations on this. I don't hear any information, just a lot of assertions about potential problems with hypothetical examples built in there. Hypothetical examples are okay, and most people can probably relate to some of the things that you're talking about, although the demonstration that there's a loss of sleep or that there's a substantial amount of eye strain, I do think needs some proof. When you talk about how much time we spend or how much money we spend on these sorts of things, that should be the thing that's easiest to quantify. You simply have the one example. You might be paying up to $1,000 for a cell phone. Well, yeah, that part's true, but if you own this, how long do people actually hold on to their cell phones? If they use them for 4 years, that's $250 a year. That seems pretty reasonable. That's much less than $1 a day. That seems like a fair trade-off for a lot of folks when it comes to whatever utility they're going to get out of it. The notion that people upgrade without necessity, that they do so kind of automatically, that we're being exploited in some way, that needs to be developed. As it is, it's mostly an assertion on your part. The notion that there are potential problems with cell phones because of germs, that's not a bad argument to make either, as long as you've got some data to support it. But basically, this is all asserted as well. The notion that there are germs, that the phones come in contact with things that, because we're handling them, I think that of course makes sense, but I don't know how much greater the risk is than anything else that we might handle. The pen or pencil, the glasses that you have, the utensils that you use to eat with. You're right, we never wash our cell phones, at least not the way we wash our eating utensils, but on the other hand, I'm not sticking my cell phone in my mouth, so I feel a little bit less likely I'm going to run into those sorts of things. If there's any data that shows, for instance, that people contract illnesses as a result of things that they've encountered on their cell phone, that would be helpful. Even some statistical data about the number of germs that are available on cell phones, how much bacteria and horrible stuff there is there, that would make it a little bit more scary for us. You pass by the the most obvious risk very quickly, and that's the use of phones while driving. You do have a statistic on this. You do have a source citation on this. That's the one place that I actually heard a piece of information that was being cited clearly in the presentation. And that's low-hanging fruit. That's one that I think most people know about. Again, I think you could probably make this a bit more of an argument by talking about how people resist the laws against the use of cell phones in cars. You could make it a little bit more dramatic and emotionally involving by talking about some incidents that are related to this. As it is, it stays kind of abstract, and it's very short. The loss of time, again, is dependent on hypotheticals, which you are willing to provide us, but I don't know if any of it's quantifiable. You just say, well, you start scrolling through your social media and boom, 2 hours is gone. And I know that that's happened to me on plenty of occasions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it happens on a daily basis or that our productivity goes down, especially since we know that phones often get used for productivity issues. So the question is there any way to measure this and how much time we are not devoting to homework or not devoting to our relationships, not developing particular skills we should be able to break this down. I'm sure there's some statistical information about how much time the average person spends on the cell phone each day and what impact that's had on their other relations. You do make a suggestion at one point that kids may run into problems because they don't develop relationships or they don't develop social skills because they're too dependent on the technology of cell phones to do this. I think that's another potential argument that could be developed, but it just gets mentioned in passing. So there's a lot of these. It's like let me take everything in the kitchen sink and throw it up there and hope that a couple of these things will make an impact on the audience and that they'll be a little more circumspect about using their phone down the road. And it's I think it could be a lot more convincing. I think that you do present pretty well. Your voice is pretty active. I thought your audience contact was solid. I thought that you were engaged with your gestures while you were speaking. The speech is a little bit short, and like I said, the biggest problem that I saw is lack of source citations. All right, thank you.